Hi everybody, Jelaine Pratt here with eXp Realty, and we're here at one of my beautiful and brilliant colleagues' listings. And today for Real Estate Roadmap, we're going to show you what to expect in a showing. So let's get started. This mini home sits on about a half an acre. So when we're doing our walk around the house to check foundation, siding, and roof, just to give a glance of the property, landscaping, any accessory buildings that might come with the property, important to check out at this time. Another very important thing, especially if this is a virtual showing that your realtor is doing for you, is to get a good sense of not only the community, but something that's going to be immediately important to you is what kind of street traffic to expect. Sometimes, as you can tell today, we're not seeing any traffic whatsoever, just beautiful scenery. But sometimes you could be, especially in New Brunswick, near a tourist attraction where winter is calm like this, but then summer, somewhere like St. Martin's, could pick up significantly. So if that's something important to you, that's why it's really important to have a built relationship with your realtor so that they can guide you on things like that and make sure that you're getting exactly what you want, or at least something that does suit your needs and that you can at least anticipate and prepare for. At our listings in New Brunswick, we do use super lockboxes. So every listing will have a lockbox. This allows other agents to access the key for you, and only active agents will have access to this. And voila, we have a key. And let's head on inside. So with showings, often when you're selling, you do have a listing agent. They're predominantly not the person who's showing your home. Instead, they're coordinating showings with other realtors who have qualified buyers. Every once in a while, your listing agent may be showing because they have qualified buyers on their own, or someone just drove by and saw the sign and we're their main contact. But otherwise, it's other agents showing. And with the listing agent showing, that could get into something that we call dual agency. I can give you pros and cons on that in another video that is going to be linked somewhere here for you guys. But for now, I'm going to take you through a showing at Diana's listing, which is something that you'd expect in a normal scenario. So we're starting in the kitchen because it's right here. And as people say, kitchens and bathrooms sell homes. This is a gorgeous brand new kitchen in this mini home. Just some things to keep in mind. We're kind of inspecting flooring for both that it's to your taste, because that is something that's a little bit more expensive to change out just for aesthetics. So making sure it's laid properly, there's no spacing in the joints, and again, that it suits your taste. You're checking countertops, both for making sure that there's no nicks, checking the quality of them. Sometimes they look like stone, but they're not, so always a good thing to checking. A lot of people feel nosy doing this, but you do want to check the cabinets. It's something that you'll be looking at every single day, so you want to make sure that they do open smoothly. Appliances, again, this is a brand new kitchen, so not too much to inspect, but just checking size of appliances, making sure that it kind of coordinates with what you'd want to be doing in a kitchen space-wise and layouts. We're also just going to inspect the plumbing here a little bit. So again, this is brand new, so we look under here, we're seeing some nice new PVC plumbing. Sometimes they can be a red flag right off the get-go if it's something like Kitech, which has now been eliminated. So you just want to make sure that in the offer you address that at some point, because insurance and lenders do not want Kitech. But again, this is beautifully updated, some nice PVC in there. And Diana's favorite feature of this entire house is this oven, which does have an air fryer feature, so you can do pretty much everything. I'm a millennial. I rock my air fryer. It would be so much nicer to not take up huge counter space and to just have this oven, which has the air fryer function. Again, feels nosy, but you do want to check out because this is something you'll be using every day. So don't be afraid to check out the fridge. You're not judging their food choices. You're just seeing the size. No different than you do at a store if you were picking out your own appliance, especially when you're buying a home. they do come with appliances majority of the time. So check them out. Make sure they're in a good location for you and that they suit your needs. We will do a pre-closing inspection video at some point. That's where we're actually going to do things like run the dishwasher and make sure that it's functioning properly. So you don't do that until way later on in the process. For now, you're just kind of making sure that it suits your needs. So in this mini home, it is an eat-in kitchen, nice open concept. So with that, just kind of make notes to not be too distracted by their furniture. I know it can change the space up a lot. Like this one has the gorgeous glass table, which does give the appearance of more space. So if you're liking it, you thought of an eating kitchen, maybe take note that you really like it. But if this isn't your taste, try to just kind of see through it and kind of picture your furniture in this space, how it would be to cook and eat here for your family, should it become your home eventually. Then we're going to keep moving into the living room here. So you can probably hear it too, but this does have a heat pump. Great time to check in. It should say on the listing, but heat pumps can be owned or rented. It's generally assumed if they're rented that when you buy the house that you assume a rental. So it is important to check in. Also important to check in for heating type and subsequently costs. So if this wasn't on a heat pump and it was oil, it would be a very different monthly bill for you. Even this being owned versus rented can be a big implication for your monthly bill. So very important to check in on some of that information. As we're talking about heating costs, another important thing to check in with is windows. Oftentimes there is an age kind of hidden on the windows. Unfortunately, I was excited to show you this trick, but these windows don't seem to have it. But you can often see if they're in good shape or not, especially on a winter day. You will see that there's some gases in between the panes if they're kind of on their way out. And these ones seem to be in great quality, and I am assuming that they are newer and you'd be fine for many years down the road with these windows. So in this mini home, we do have an intelligent dehumidifier. Because this is one level, not the biggest concern. We do generally super check out moisture levels in a basement. Generally, I recommend just having a dehumidifier in a basement area anyways, just because it does tend to be a lot more damp. But great thing to check in with is, does it have capabilities for doing that itself like this home? And then again, just checking moisture levels could be signs of concern. But again, basements in general tend to be a little bit higher in humidity. So now you get to join me in the back room. So right now, you do hear that sound. The fan is tied in with the lights. The ventilation is definitely something you want to pay attention to, especially like this bathroom where we have the shower tub combination, because of course, especially on a cold day like today, we like to have those hot, steamy showers. And if there is no ventilation system in place, that can wreak a whole lot of havoc, cause mold, cause deterioration on some of the drywall. It's a mess. We'll get into that further, but this one, as you could hear, working brilliantly, in great shape. We do want to check in that there is something like that happening. Similar to the kitchen, we would just pop open and check out what kind of plumbing, make sure there's no red flags with the type or any signs of leakage, anything like that. The other thing we check in with is the tub and or shower. So in this case, we have a nice plastic alcove. This is probably one of the better ones for not leaking, just because there's so few seams that you really just need to get the sealant in and make sure it's caulked properly and it's good to go. As you know, variety of different options. Sometimes you get the standalone tub and the standing shower. Sometimes you have this combination, but it'll be full backsplash, which can, if not installed properly, can be a little bit messier, but just checking it out, making sure that anything that is an issue would just be like kind of old caulking that we need to pull out and redo, which is a very easy job. You're checking that everything's level so it can drain properly. But all in all, very important place to check out. Again, not just that it's the size and style that could suit you, but that there are no underlying issues right off the bat that could be red flags. So in bedrooms, similar to the dining room, you want to make sure that you're not just too distracted by their furniture, but it is kind of good to take a little check in. If you have a king-size bed and a double or queen seems to be occupying most of the space, just something to pay attention to. And how many closets, if they have a lot of dressers, it might indicate size. So again, don't get distracted by the furniture, but it can start to give you little tidbits of if this space is going to work for you or not. Again, checking out the closets kind of feels nosy, but you're probably going to put a good chunk of your money into this place for it to become your home. So you do want to know the ins and outs of it before you make that decision. So checking in closets, just seeing the size. Sometimes you could open it up and there's like a full armoire system in there so that you might not need to utilize a dresser. Sometimes there's not even shelving in there. So it is good to know kind of what you're getting into for storage space. So here have the nice his and hers, or as Brandon likes to joke, hers and hers, even though he uses more closet space than me. So with this one, you have just beautiful racking. It does actually get quite deep in here. So tons of storage space for a primary bedroom. So this bedroom is also home to our electrical panel. Another important thing to check out, just again, those immediate red flags. So as you can see, we're on breakers here, which is wonderful. Sometimes you could get into issues with like knob and tube, where again, insurers and lenders will not touch you with a 10-foot pole, some of them. So we do want to see breakers. They do have right on them what amperage. So we see here that it is 200 amps, which is plenty for this space. And you can see you still have a bunch of empty spaces there. And they already have a heat pump, which is one of the ones we usually look at. Is there space for a heat pump to make the heating costs more efficient? But you can see here, these two spaces are already for the heat pump, and you still got plenty more. So great to check out and have a look what you're dealing with. And in this case, we're giving it a thumbs up. So because this is a mini home, the electrical panel is also home to the mobile home CSA page here. Majority of times I've looked in mini homes has actually been on the kitchen cabinet door under the kitchen sink. But this is information that you will need to have for doing any of your documentation for a purchase or sale of a mini home. So make sure it is in the home somewhere you can locate it. So when you are walking around in your showings, do pay attention to things like light fixtures and fans. They will come with the home 99.9% of the time, and it's usually very clearly written out that there are exclusions if there's maybe like a chandelier that's a family heirloom that the sellers would want to take with them. But otherwise, pay attention. Make sure that you like where the lights are in relation to the room. And honestly, even if you hate them, they are one of the cheapest ways to completely change a house. I've changed almost every light fixture in our house. But do pay attention. This one has gorgeous, and they're all very cohesive if you're paying attention as we walk through the house. The other thing to pay attention to that often comes with the house is window dressing. So sometimes you will get nice blackout curtains, sometimes there are blinds. So do pay attention. It's another really easy way to change out to make it match your aesthetics, but even just understanding that there's already rods in place and you just need the fabric for curtains to be changed out, or if you're a diehard blind person, that you would need to be fully installing blinds. And another thing we're keeping an eye on throughout our showing process is going to be drywall. It can definitely be a giveaway if there's any structural instabilities, or even things like that they've added additions that we may not have known of before. So checking, making sure you're not seeing any large cracks that could be a red flag as you're walking through the property. So next up, we have the laundry room. So in here we see a nice washer dryer. Sometimes there aren't going to be the appliances here, and there it is really important to make sure that they do have a hookup unless you enjoy finding and going to laundromats. But in here, again, you can just check out the size, check if it's an agitator, kind Again, appliances aren't make or break, but definitely need to be aware if you're going to immediately have to spend a few $1,000s replacing any appliances. And also checking in here, tons of storage, which is something that I personally look for in a laundry room. And especially where this is a smaller home, really important to know where your storage is going to be. And this is a great place for it. And we also have a door to outside right here, which could be a great one if you're coming in muddy. You can step right into the laundry room, which is a great feature and something to keep in mind with layout. So although I've walked through and kind of shown you some red flags you want to be aware of, there is inspections, which are an option where qualified professionals come in and will inspect everything we talked about and more, and at a much more vigorous level. We will eventually be speaking with an inspector who can give us more about that, but again, just right off the bat to know some red flags, especially if you're looking at the top of your budget and you don't have money to put in to fix any of the red flags, it'd be really important to know right off the get-go. The other thing I wanted to touch on is that even with inspections, there is a requirement for sellers to disclose if there are any material latent defects. So those are things that can't be seen by the naked eye, and often inspectors can't tell unless it's actively happening either. Something like a leaky basement, if the sellers are aware of it, they need to disclose it, otherwise it could lead to lawsuits down the road. And just something for you to be aware of, some people are never going to touch a home that has disclosed that it has a leaky basement. Some people, especially if it's otherwise their dream home, will just budget in having something like an interior drain tile, or even getting a quote for how it can be remedied before putting an offer in on the home. So again, we do want to check out the closets just to make sure that they suit your space. You can see on this one that there is no door, so if a Diana doesn't suit you, you will need to buy a door to keep her out.